I never asked to be included. But according to the woman stomping across my gravel lane in lemon-colored loafers, I was about to become part of something greater than myself. That woman's name was Karen. Of course it was. And behind her, waddling like a parade of poorly programmed Roombas, came 3 clipboard-wielding figures in branded HOA windbreakers. Hillside Oaks Association, Navy and Smug. I'd been living on the edge of their community for about a year now. Keyword, edge. My property, a 4-acre stretch of wooded hillside and an old A-frame cabin, was outside the formal boundaries. It had its own driveway, its own zoning, and, most importantly, no HOA ties. Not even honorary ones. But after their recent expansion plan passed at some board meeting I was never invited to, something changed. Karen marched straight to my porch steps and tapped on the nearest beam with her pen. "You've got non-compliant wood tone, you know that?" I looked up from the lawnmower I was tuning. "Morning to you too." She raised a manicured eyebrow. "I'm serious. The covenant clearly states that all front-facing beams must be finished in natural cedar or driftwood gray." "I'm not in your covenant." "Yet," she smiled. "The annexation phase is in progress." That word, annexation, wasn't something I'd heard outside of history documentaries. I stood slowly, wiped my hands on a rag and tilted my head. This property was built in 1974. My deed goes back 12 owners. And it's never had HOA oversight. Karen didn't blink. "That's why we're reaching out, to bring you into alignment." "Alignment with what?" She gestured vaguely to the valley below, where a sprawl of identical beige houses huddled like frightened sheep. "With the community." Behind her, one of the clipboard crew piped up, reading from a sheet. "Lot 92 shows historical use of pathing that intersects with Parcel 17B. That's my fire road," I cut in. "County approved. For emergency access. And community flow," Karen added. "Joggers love it. We even host our annual wellness run right past here." "I didn't see any joggers," I said. "I saw teenagers drinking by my woodpile last week." She gave a tight laugh. "We're all neighbors. That's the spirit we want to foster." Then her tone shifted, subtly but sharply. "Unless, of course, you're choosing to be difficult." That evening I found a pamphlet tucked into the handle of my shed. "Welcome to the Oaks. We're excited to offer new residents the full benefits of HOA membership. Trash pickup coordination, exterior paint consultation, community surveillance, and monthly engagement meetings." Taped to it was a sticky note. "Your feedback is important to us." Karen, smiley face. I threw it in the burn barrel. 3 days later things escalated. A new sign appeared at the bottom of my drive. "Future site of Hillside Oaks Greenway Trail Extension." It was nailed to my fence post. No call. No knock. No permission. Just a laminated map stapled next to it showing a dashed line cutting straight through my woods, bending around my barn, and exiting just behind the chicken coop. I took a photo. Then I tore it down. That afternoon, my mailbox held a thick envelope with a cheerful acorn logo and the words, "Compliance Starter Packet." Inside were 18 pages of bylaws I'd never agreed to. A dues schedule starting at $140 per month. A friendly neighbor profile form asking for my preferred pronouns and favorite ice cream flavor. And a pre-approval color palette guide for my roof. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. So instead, I poured a coffee and reread my deed, all 6 pages of it, including the boundary surveys, zoning codes, and tax parcel definitions. Nothing had changed. Except them. That weekend, I was loading mulch from the trailer when a man in cargo shorts and a badge lanyard strode up the path like he owned the place. "Name's Scott," he said. "HOA Field Liaison. Here to verify border integrity." He pulled out a little laser rangefinder and started pointing it at trees. "You're trespassing," I said. "Per the board, this is now a shared-use buffer zone." He smiled. "I didn't. I'm giving you 60 seconds to get off my land." He laughed, then saw I wasn't kidding. Karen pulled up in her SUV before he could respond. Rolled down her window and called, "Scott, don't let him intimidate you. He's bluffing. Wanna bet?" I called back. She drove off. Scott left 30 seconds later. That night, I got an email from a no-reply address titled, "Notice of Non-Cooperation, Parcel 17B. Your resistance to voluntary annexation may result in penalty fines, service disruption, and escalated administrative review." I added it to a new folder on my desktop. Called it HOA Evidence. Because they didn't know who I was. Not yet. And they had no idea what line they just crossed. But just before we dive into this unbelievable story, please take a second to like this video. It really helps the channel and shows us you enjoy these kinds of stories. And while you're at it, subscribe. We post the wildest Karen encounters every single day. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We genuinely love seeing how far these stories travel. The first find wasn't in an envelope. Just a folded piece of mint-colored paper, tucked under my welcome mat like it belonged there. Violation, unapproved fence tone. Amount due, $175. No photo. No explanation. Just that. An hour later I found a second one, zip-tied to my mailbox. Violation, inhospitable aesthetic. $95. That one made me pause. Inhospitable aesthetic? I looked at my fence. Then at the dusty gravel drive. It all looked exactly like it had for the past 40 years. But I guess now it offended someone's sense of community. By the end of the week I'd collected 5 of them. One was taped to my trash can. Another stuffed into a bag of birdseed. I didn't respond to any. Instead I added them to a shoebox in the shed labeled HOA BS. Then came the calls. A woman named Cheryl, she lives 2 houses down, left a voicemail. Hi, just checking if you're planning to attend the trail meeting on Saturday? Karen said you'd be presenting your access agreement. Sounds exciting. I didn't call back. 2 days later, a guy in khakis and a Hillside Oaks baseball cap walked up my drive like he'd done it every morning of his life. Hi there, he said. I'm with the HOA planning task group. Just doing some routine measurements. Of what? He held up a measuring wheel. Trail continuity. Easement viability. You know, alignment stuff. On my land. He smiled. It's all kind of one big system now. You're in the heart of it. I didn't answer. Just turned and walked back to the porch. He didn't follow. That night, a neighbor named Paul texted me a photo. It was a printed map he'd gotten in his mailbox. My lot was on it, highlighted in yellow, labeled, Future Trailhead Park Site, Phase 4. Underneath in small print. Pending community feedback. Final vote April 12th. I called Paul. Did you know they're planning a park in my orchard? He sighed. Karen says it's symbolic. They're just exploring ideas. Well, their idea is sitting on top of my chickens. He laughed then got quiet. Look, I don't want trouble, he said. But they keep saying you're on board. That you agreed in principle. I didn't. He didn't say anything else. Friday afternoon I found a flyer taped to my truck. Community Wellness Picnic. Celebrating togetherness through shared space. Location, the Future Greenway, starting behind Mr. Kane's orchard. That's me. Mr. Kane. I stood there holding the paper, watching 2 teens across the street string up balloons between mailboxes. I didn't stop them. I just went inside and checked my property lines again. Still the same. That evening I caught Karen on my trail cam. She was pacing just beyond my fence talking to a group of volunteers. They were in HOA t-shirts, holding trash bags and clipboards. Karen pointed toward my back field. This is where we'll set up tables. Keep it clean, make it welcoming. Even if he's not joining, the space is still ours in spirit. The next morning I walked out and found a folding table already set up beside the chicken coop. On it, more flyers. HOA branded paper plates. A guest book with 2 signatures. No one was in sight. I packed everything into a box and left it on the corner by their little welcome bench. Didn't say a word. Later that day I found a letter in my mailbox. Type. No return address. You're becoming the problem. People are starting to notice. This isn't just about you anymore. No name. No threat. Just that. I pinned it to my fridge with a chicken-shaped magnet. That night, someone spray-painted "Why so private?" on the old storage shed behind the orchard. I didn't hear them. But the cameras did. 2 figures in hoodies, quick and quiet. One held a flashlight. The other had a can of paint. They left fast. Didn't take anything. Just their message. The next morning, Karen's post hit Facebook. Some people forget that community is bigger than fences. But we're here to remind them, Hillside belongs to all of us. I didn't reply. Didn't comment. Didn't like it. I just took a screenshot and saved it in a folder on my laptop called Karen Phase 2. Because if this was a war, they just fired the first real shot. And they still didn't know who I really was. Sunday morning, I noticed something new nailed to my fence post. A sign. Printed. Laminated. Zip-tied in 3 places. Future Trail Access Point, Community Pending Zone. In partnership with Hillside Oaks Wellness Outreach Committee. It looked official. Until you realized it wasn't. No seal. No county logo. No contact number. Just a bunch of happy stick figures jogging across a cartoon forest that suspiciously resembled my orchard. I ripped it down and tossed it into the compost bin. Seemed like the most appropriate place. By noon, Karen was outside with a clipboard and a group of teenagers in matching t-shirts. Some had trash bags. Others had folding chairs. They were setting up in the back field, my field. I stepped out onto the porch and called, "What do you think you're doing?" Karen didn't even look up. "Just hosting a little outreach. It's part of our Spring Togetherness series. On my land." She finally turned. "Jack," she said, "this whole space has been used for years. It's practically tradition. Why make a scene?" "Because I didn't agree to this. It's just one afternoon. You didn't ask." She smiled that HOA smile, the kind that looks friendly but isn't. "Community first, right?" Then she turned back to her clipboard. By 2 p.m., there were picnic tables set up under my apple trees. A Bluetooth speaker was playing soft jazz. Someone had brought hummus. A guy I'd never seen before handed out little cups of cucumber water, saying, "Karen says it's fine, she cleared it." I walked up to the speaker and unplugged it. A few people looked confused. One man muttered, "Rude?" I didn't care. "This is my land," I said loud enough for all of them to hear. "This is trespassing." Karen stood on a cooler and called out, "Jack, no one's here to fight. We're celebrating inclusion." I pointed to the fence line. "Inclusion ends where my property begins." That shut things up. People slowly started packing up their stuff. Someone dropped a whole bowl of quinoa salad on my walkway and didn't clean it up. That evening I got a call from Deputy Reyes. "Hey Jack, just wanted to give you a heads up, we've gotten a few complaints." "About what?" "Noise. Aggressive behavior. Someone said you threatened to volunteer." I laughed. "With what?" "My face." He sighed. "I know it's nonsense, but I had to make the call." I thanked him. Told him I had camera footage of the whole picnic. He said, "Might be worth saving." I already had. Monday morning, a man in a safety vest showed up at the fence. "Just doing a quick environmental review," he said, pointing to a clipboard. "Review for what?" "Greenway potential. Wildlife flow. That sort of thing." "On my property?" He didn't answer. I asked for ID. He handed me a business card that just said Community Planning Services in bold font. No phone number. No website. "Karen sent me," he said finally. "Said you'd cooperate." I didn't. He left without another word. That night, I noticed the back gate was open. I always lock it. Always. But the latch was hanging loose and twisted. I checked the trail cam footage. At 4:11 a.m., 2 people walked right in. One carried a gas can. The other had a flashlight. They didn't rush. Didn't sneak. They walked like they belonged. At 4:17 a.m., the old storage shed lit up like a bonfire. The fire didn't spread. I'd cleared the brush weeks ago. But the shed was gone. Along with a lawnmower, a set of tools, and the old wooden table I built with my brother back in '91. I stood there at sunrise, boots and ash, staring at the wreckage. Karen showed up an hour later. She wore a Hillside Oaks windbreaker and carried a tray of muffins. "This isn't what anyone wanted," she said, placing the tray on a nearby stump. "But maybe now you'll see how important unity is." I didn't say anything. She looked at the burnt rubble. "Sometimes things have to break down before they can be rebuilt. Together." Then she walked away. That afternoon, the HOA Facebook page posted, "Devastated by today's loss, but proud of how the community is coming together in the face of setbacks." They didn't mention whose shed burned down. Didn't mention who lit the fire. Just posted a stock photo of hands holding a seedling. I commented one sentence. "This wasn't yours to lose." The post was deleted within an hour. That night I installed 2 more cameras. Upgraded the rest to infrared. Backed up everything to a cloud drive labeled, "In case HOA goes nuclear." Then I sat down with a whiskey, opened my laptop, and pulled up the law office contact list I hadn't touched in years. Because this wasn't a neighborhood dispute anymore. This was war. And I was done playing nice. The letter was thicker this time. Real envelope. Official seal. Watermarked paper. "Dear Mr. Kane, in accordance with Hillside Oaks Community Realignment Plan, your parcel is now considered a transitional lot pending voluntary integration." Transitional lot. They made it sound like my land was going through puberty. Inside was a 4-page document titled, "Phase 4 Integration Proposal, Green Ribbon Initiative. On the map, my house was labeled Community Learning Barn. My orchard? Future Wellness Grove. At the bottom, Karen had signed her name in blue ink, with a heart over the I. I read the whole thing twice. There was no legal binding. No court stamps. Just wishful thinking dressed like bureaucracy. Still, it had already started doing damage. Paul called me later that day. "Hey man, just wanted to say, sorry." "For what?" "We got a letter. Said HOA fees are increasing due to delays in the integration process. They blamed resistance from private holders. So, people aren't thrilled. People mad at me for not giving up my land?" He sighed. "It's messy." Karen had a meeting. Said she's trying to protect the value of all homes. I asked if he believed her. He didn't answer. By Friday, 6 neighbors had stopped waving at me. One actually flipped me off. Another threw a flyer in my yard. It said, "Don't let one voice silence progress. Vote yes on Unity Trail. Tuesday at 6 p.m., Clubhouse Conference Room." I wasn't invited. Didn't matter. I showed up anyway. The clubhouse smelled like citrus air freshener and barely concealed aggression. Karen stood at the front of the room beside a projector. She smiled when she saw me. "Oh, Jack. We weren't sure you'd come. You didn't invite me." She waved that off like it was a scheduling error. "We're just doing a little straw poll," she said. "Nothing binding." The screen behind her showed a PowerPoint with words like synergy, togetherness, and shared stewardship. Then a new slide. Community benefits of Parcel 17B integration. My land. My name. No permission. She clicked through pie charts and vague bullet points. Better walkability. Social alignment. Conflict resolution. I raised my hand. Karen paused. "This is an open discussion just yet, but you're using my name. My land. Without consent. We're just exploring options," she said. "The community has the right to dream. Not about things that belong to other people." She gave a tight-lipped smile. "Jack, don't be so territorial. We're not stealing anything. What do you call changing my orchard into a public garden on a fake map?" "It's not hostile," she said. "It's just strategic." The room got quiet. Someone coughed. Another whispered, "Yikes." Karen switched to a new slide titled, "Next Steps," and sped through it like it burned her fingers. I walked out before it ended. That night, I emailed a lawyer I used to work with. Told him I needed a cease and desist letter. A strong one. By morning we had the draft. 2 pages. Cling. Sure. I printed 12 copies and slid them into manila folders. Then I took a walk. First stop, Karen's mailbox. I left it with a sticky note on top. "Consider this official." Next, the clubhouse door. Then the HOA board president's front steps. I gave one to the lady with the loudest Facebook post, and another to the planning liaison, who measured my trees without asking. Last one went to Paul. Not because he deserved it, but because I knew he'd read it out loud to someone else. By Monday the whispers had started. Karen was concerned. Said I'd gone litigious. She tried calling. I didn't answer. Then she emailed. "Jack, this isn't personal. Let's sit down and talk like neighbors." I replied. "You first." By court order. She didn't write back. 2 nights later, someone egged my fence. Left a cracked Unity Trail yard sign in my mailbox. That was fine. I had what I needed now. And the next move was mine. Karen's next move came with a headshot. Literally, her photo. Smiling. Arms folded. HOA pin shining like a sheriff's badge. It was the cover of the neighborhood newsletter, slid into every mailbox. Spotlight, the woman behind the trail. Why Hillside Oaks is lucky to have Karen, and what she's planning next. Inside, a full spread. 2 pages of fluff and quotes like, "He's isolated. We're inclusive. If we give up now, we set the wrong example. Resistance to unity is a dangerous message." There was even a bullet point list titled, "Top 5 Reasons to Open Lot 17B. Number 3 was literally, "Because we've always walked through there." I laughed, then stopped laughing. Because the final paragraph said, "We've submitted a community claim to the Regional Planning Board. Integration isn't just an idea, it's already in progress." That same day I got a knock at the door. A man in slacks and a polo shirt stood holding a small folder and a big smile. "Good morning. I'm with the Regional Adjustment Team. Here to confirm some boundaries." He waved a laminated badge. No state seal. Just an acorn logo and the phrase "Unity in Land." I didn't request anything. We're just here to verify community alignment for green zoning expansion. I looked past him. 2 more guys in matching polos were scanning my yard with laser rangefinders. Did Karen send you? He didn't answer. I said, leave. He said, we have pre-approval. I said, try me. They left. That night, a neighbor named Lynn called me. She whispered, I think Karen's using our names. I asked what she meant. She posted a petition with our signatures. I never signed anything. Turns out, neither did 6 other people on her block. She says it's symbolic, Lynn added. Says we'd agree if we understood. I told her to screenshot everything. Then I got to work. The next morning, I drove to the county building and requested the full annexation file on Hillside Oaks. The clerk gave me a folder. Inside, 3 forms. All unsigned. No motion. No hearing. No ruling. But someone had mailed a public integration packet to every homeowner with a fake case number and a QR code labeled, Verify Your Participation. When scanned, it opened a slick website with cheerful music, moving icons and Karen's voice saying, we're all in this together. Even if some of us don't realize it yet. I sent the link to my attorney. He replied with 3 words. Time to escalate. That week 2 more things happened. First, I received an HOA fine hand-delivered for failure to maintain neighbor morale. Yes, really? Second, I got an anonymous envelope. No return address. Inside, a printed map with red X's marked around my orchard and the words, Revised Public Entry Points, Final Phase. Someone had drawn smiley faces on the corners. I filed it under Karen, delusional. Then came the so-called community rally. I watched from my porch as a group of about 20 people gathered near the road. They held signs like, Access is not ownership. Land for all. Unit each property. Karen stood in front, megaphone in hand. We're not here to attack, she said. We're here to connect. Someone shouted, what if he never opens it? She smiled. Then we make it impossible for him to keep it closed. That line hit different. Because it wasn't just about fences anymore. Later that night, I sent a courier to the county office. Inside the envelope, a motion to legally freeze any annexation attempts on my parcel. It came with a notarized affidavit, 3 documented violations by HOA, and a letter from my lawyer addressed to every member of their board. It was clean, quiet, powerful. Next morning, Karen emailed me. Jack, this has gone too far. You can't fight progress with paperwork. I replied, you'd be surprised what I can do with paperwork. She didn't write back. But that weekend, I heard her yelling at someone over the phone outside her SUV. I don't care if he filed it, we push forward anyway. I smiled. Because she didn't sound powerful anymore. She sounded scared. It started with the news van. Bright yellow. Too cheerful. Parked across the street like it belonged there. The logo said, Channel 7, where community comes first. I stood on the porch, coffee in hand, and watched the crew set up lights. Then Karen stepped in front of the camera. She wore a blazer. Lipstick brighter than usual. A mic clipped to her collar like a weapon. I couldn't hear every word, but I caught enough. We've tried kindness. We've tried conversation. But when one person blocks progress, the whole neighborhood suffers. She gestured toward my fence. This is about connection, not control. He's built a wall where there should have been a bridge. The piece aired that night. They called it, One Man versus the Oaks. Can unity survive division? It was 3 minutes of soft music, drone shots, and Karen talking like she was running for mayor. They didn't interview me. Didn't mention the fire. Didn't show the fake signs or forged maps. But they did use the words, former judge turned recluse. Which told me Karen had finally learned who I really was. I thought that might slow her down. It didn't. The next day, someone posted my address in a public neighborhood forum, claiming I was hoarding land. Another post said I was refusing to negotiate and had threatened peaceful residents with surveillance. Funny how having a security camera after an arson attempt turned into a scandal. But karma's weird. Because 2 days later I got a knock at the door. It was Paul. He held up a thick envelope. Look, spook. You should see this, he said. Inside were emails. Printed. Highlighted. Karen had forwarded internal HOA messages, by mistake, to a few wrong addresses. One of those addresses belonged to Paul's wife. He flipped to the most damning page. If we can get the planning board to approve public trail status, he'll have no legal defense. The optics will bury him. We just need to push the narrative hard enough. Another said, even if it gets challenged, the damage will be done. Most folks won't check the facts. At the bottom. Leverage the fire. Paint it as instability. I sat down and read the whole thing in silence. Then I looked up. Thanks for bringing this. Paul nodded. She scared the hell out of me. Still does. But this is too much. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. He didn't even wait. The next morning, a formal lawsuit was filed. Kane versus Hillside Oaks Homeowners Association. The suit listed trespassing, harassment, defamation, forgery, illegal use of likeness, attempted annexation under false pretenses. It was public. It made headlines. Karen's name was on page 1. I didn't celebrate. Didn't post online. Didn't say a word. But I did buy a new sign for the gate. Simple black letters on white metal. Pending litigation, no trespassing, no exceptions. The day after the news broke, HOA leadership held a meeting. They invited everyone. Free pizza. Balloons. Karen stood at the front again, voice tight. We want to assure the community that these claims are unfounded. This isn't an attack, it's a distraction. Someone in the back asked, "Did you really fake that map?" She paused. Then said, "We had to act. He left us no choice." After that meeting, my inbox lit up. 10 neighbors emailed me. Some apologized. Some thanked me. One wrote, "I stayed quiet for too long. If you ever need someone to speak in court, I will." I saved every message. That night, my yard was quiet. No flyers. No fake surveyors. No kids playing wellness cleanup at the edge of my fence. Just silence. For the first time in weeks, it felt like mine again. Karen didn't stop. By Wednesday, every mailbox had a glossy flyer. Community voice survey, make your voice count. Unity starts with you. There was a QR code, a smiling family, and a heading that read, "Will you support peaceful trail expansion through Parcel 17B? My land." Still labeled, pending integration. Below in smaller text. Survey results to be submitted to the Regional Planning Board. They went door to door that day. Karen, clipboard in hand, flanked by 2 HOA volunteers in matching polos. One neighbor told me. She said, "It's just a form." Everyone else signed. When I asked what happens if I don't, she smiled and said, "It'll look like you don't care about community." Another neighbor got a follow-up call. Another had their fence cited for visual disharmony, less than 24 hours after refusing. Someone posted in the neighborhood group, "I just got a compliance notice for weeds I trimmed yesterday." Coincidence? 10 minutes later, the post was deleted. By the end of the week, Karen claimed 81% support for peaceful integration. She published it on a website with graphs, anonymous quotes, and a fake logo at the top. Hillside Oaks Community Research Board. The kicker? The address at the bottom was a P.O. box, registered under her maiden name. I wasn't surprised, but I was done watching. My attorney filed a motion that Friday to freeze all HOA activity related to Parcel 17B until the case was resolved. He also submitted a cease and desist targeting the survey and any community documentation, using my name, address, or land in any form. The judge granted a temporary injunction. Effective immediately. Karen responded by hosting a unity circle in front of the clubhouse. She lit candles, wore a shawl, talked about restoring the soul of Hillside. Less than 10 people showed up. 3 left before the end. Meanwhile, the cracks were spreading. Lynn, the quiet neighbor from down the street, posted screenshots of Karen's emails. The ones where she called my orchard low-value space with high optics potential. Paul forwarded a voice memo Karen sent him by mistake. "We can use the fire to frame the instability angle. It doesn't have to be true. It just has to land." People started waking up. Then came the inspection. 2 men in county vests showed up on my driveway. Except they weren't county. I asked for ID. They gave me a single business card that said, "Community Environmental Liaisons." No badge. No number. No title. I filmed the whole thing. Posted a still on a private thread with the caption, "Smile for the subpoena." They left without a word. By Sunday, the HOA board was fracturing. One member resigned. Another sent a mass email. "I was told we had legal authority. We didn't. I apologize." Karen posted a video the next day. No music. No graphics. Just her in her car. "I just wanted what was best. Sometimes leadership means making unpopular choices." She looked tired. No clipboard. No windbreaker. Just shaky lipstick and an awkward smile. That night, my fence was quiet. No signs. No trash. No trespassers. Just wind in the orchard trees. And the sense that something had finally shifted. But it wasn't over yet. Because justice still had a name to write on the record. And it started with K. Court was quiet. No cameras. No audience. Just a wooden bench, a bored bailiff, and a woman in a pink blazer trying very hard not to sweat through it. Karen sat to my left. 3 HOA board members behind her. None of them looked thrilled to be there. My lawyer stood. Calm. Professional. Your Honor, we are not here to argue opinion. We are here to demonstrate a deliberate, repeated attempt to claim property that does not and has never belonged to the HOA. He handed over a folder. Inside. Fake flyers. Altered maps. Screenshots of manipulated surveys. And a printed quote from Karen. He'll cave under enough pressure. No one fights this hard forever. The judge read it twice. Then looked at her. Ms. Lancaster, do you have anything to say? Karen stood. Smiled. It was never malicious. We were just trying to encourage a more unified neighborhood. If we overstepped, it was out of passion. Not intent. The judge didn't smile back. You used forged documentation. You misled residents. And you knowingly involved individuals in what amounts to organized harassment. Karen blinked. The sweat finally showed. You don't have authority over the spirit of a community, she said quietly. The judge replied. But I do have authority over land use, harassment, and fraud. And just like that, the hammer came down. Final ruling. Immediate cease of all HOA activity related to my parcel. Retraction of public claims. Civil penalties totaling $27,000. Public apology issued within 7 days. And perhaps most satisfying. Karen was removed from the HOA board. Effective immediately. The neighborhood felt different after that. The flyers stopped. The community surveys disappeared. HOA meetings shrank by half. And people? They started waving again. Paul brought over a pie. Lynn offered to help clean up the burned shed. One neighbor even apologized for flipping me off. I told him I appreciated the follow-through. Karen vanished for a while. Her lawn grew wild. The HOA newsletters went silent. And then one day a for sale sign showed up in her yard. It didn't last long. By October, a young couple moved in. No clipboards. No crusades. Just a kid with a skateboard and a very loud dog. As for me, I fixed the back gate. Planted a new tree where the fire had scorched the ground. Hung a fresh sign. Private property. Welcome to Wave. Because honestly, I was tired of fighting. But not tired of living. So yeah, that's how the HOA tried to annex my life. With maps, muffins, and a woman named Karen. But in the end, you can't annex what was never yours. Enjoyed this story? Drop your city in the comments. We love knowing where folks are watching from. And hey, if you've ever dealt with a Karen or just enjoy seeing justice win for once, hit that subscribe button. New stories every day. You won't want to miss what comes next.